Smith & Wesson M&P. Some people like the way that Smith & Wesson did this, where you don't have to pull the trigger to tear it down. Good Lord, I'm sitting here running my mouth and not doing it right. Some people don't, so I'm kind of curious. I don't really care. I mean, for me it's just an extra step that really is unnecessary, but that's me. So, and of course this is the Apex Armorer's block, which is a pretty nice little setup. It's set up to hold a Glock, set up to hold an M&P, and whenever it's in there, what it allows you to do is you can adjust those. You can adjust these to hold it, and the beauty is it allows you to knock your pins, all your different pins out, while it's in there. And that's the point. It holds the gun while you knock the pins out. One side's for Glock, one side's for M&P. Right there holds your striker. You guys have probably seen me talk about this on some of the other videos. One thing that I don't like is the fact that they don't have it labeled which side is which. And to be honest with you, I mean, I can make the M&P or the Glock fit in either side. And so I assume that this is the way. I'm pretty sure that now that I've just turned this, I think that this is the proper direction for the M&P. And I'm actually going to go ahead and write that on there real quick. M&P, Glock. Now I'll probably find out that I'm wrong. So anyways, there we go. And that will allow you to do whatever you need to, take your pins out, everything. Really nice setup. And you're not limited just to these two guns. Because it's adjustable, it gives you some flexibility there. So let me see if I can get us just a little closer where you can see what's going on here. What we'll do is, while that's going on, this is going to go on the ultrasonic cleaner. Back out of the ultrasonic cleaner. Does a phenomenal job. Well worth having, that's for damn sure. DC sight push and pull. This is not necessary, but I like to do it. I like to go ahead and make sure that it's leveled up. Okay, now, first thing I got to do, this is a factory rear sight that I've modified. Got to get that Allen key out of there. Allen key. Allen screw. Okay, I'm going to show you something. This is a very, very important step whenever you're doing these. You see how small that Allen screw. See how small that is. Alright, what you got to do, or what you need to do, is heat this up with a torch before you try and undo that. So I just got, this is MAP gas. You can use propane, whatever you want to do. And you see I'm not getting the flame directly on it. I'm holding it back. And I'm heating the side up around it, not necessarily the screw. Now, that will make it exponentially easier to remove because I have used Loctite on it. And even without Loctite, they still can be very hard to get out of there. And if you strip that out, you're going to have to drill it or take it to a gunsmith and have them do it. But by heating that around it, it takes that rear sight and it expands it away from your screw. And it also, if you've got Loctite in there, it'll make that Loctite a little bit more fluid, and the expansion will break the bond that the Loctite has on that piece of hardware there. Very, very important little step if you've got, you know, this small, teeny tiny hardware in there, because I mean, you know, you don't want to have to. You can take an operation that most people can do themselves with the right tooling and turn it into something that you have to go to a gunsmith for. I recommend that you go to the gunsmith anyways, just so it's done, you don't have to worry about it. But hey, teach their own. I'm going to show you here with this really has to do with the fact that I've made a modification to this sight. I filed this down, and what that notch is for is so you can rack the slide off of your belt loop, your heel, a countertop, whatever. If you had to do a one-handed manipulation, well, you end up with a plate here that comes, the shim comes with the TDC sight tool. There you go. Now, for a Glock, a factory M&P, that works just fine. For mine, you end up, it doesn't touch anything here, and well, it does, but it just barely touches, which could damage the sight tool. It'd still work, but it could bend this a little bit because you're putting all that pressure right on the very tip. So what you do is you come up with other shims, something else to shim it. I stacked this thick washer and this plate together, and what that did was that ended up making that sight tool, it was going to be pushing right down there on the very bottom, which might have been a little better, but it still would have damaged the sight, or could have damaged the sight pushing tool. So then I changed to this, which is just a little bit thinner than this, and it ends up with the sight pushing tool anchoring right here on this nice meaty flat spot. So, you know, there's just some things like that that you might have to do from time to time, shims and stuff, but that's part of it. And now, if you, just in case, if you ever have to do this and you put your shims in, your slide won't go in, well, pull the shims out, put the slide in, raise it up, and slide them under, because a lot of times your front and rear sights on your slide stick up, you know, well, most of the time they always stick up a little higher. So, you know, if you just use a little common sense with doing stuff like that. So you get your shims under, and you get just a guess at your alignment in and out. And you go ahead and take your adjustment here, snug it. Just make sure, I mean, because that's all it's holding the slide in, so make sure you get it tight enough that it's not going to fall out, because it could nick up your slide. Now, once you've got that, you can back it off a little bit just to adjust it. You want it to be right in the middle of the dovetail. You want it to be pushing straight down the middle. And if you want, a good idea would be take a marker and mark the middle of that before you even put it into your tool. That way you can use that to line it up. And you want it as level as possible. Now once you've got it in pretty good shape, go ahead, and I'm grabbing some big pliers here, but you don't need to put the mojo on this. You just want to make sure it's good and snug. Now I prefer to use a gear wrench. It's a little easier. You can use whatever you need to use. But this is basically what you're going to be doing. You want to use the bolt head, not the nut, for your actual tightening and loosening. So you can just snug it up by hand. You make sure that it's making good contact. Now on this one I have used Loctite on the side itself, so I'm going to take a little bit of heat to it. Doesn't take much. There we go. You can heat your slide to expand the dovetail off of it if you need to. If you get one that's very, very tight, you've got lots of options. And when you're doing this, watch that sight and make sure that it doesn't get in there crooked. You're going to make sure that it's coming out of there as straight as possible. Now, if you're running a tritium sight, you know, especially, or a fiber optic, really the fiber optics, because those vials can break and stuff. Make sure that whenever you get it to the end, sometimes they'll pop out of there. But there you go, and there's our rear sight. So we're good now. On your Smith & Wesson, if you look in there, that is the safety plunger. Now I'll show you a little trick on that here in just a minute. Now you'll notice here on my front sight, I've staked it. That's the 4 little divots you see there, just to make sure that it couldn't come loose. Let's see. Still might be running a little bit shallow. I think we are. But see, it's very easy on this. If you wanted to, and just to show you all, if you clamp it up high, you can get around having to machine it and all that stuff by just sliding your shim out some. But I like to have it to where I can clamp all that stuff in real nice and tight. And so that's what I'll do just to finish this job out. But I'm going to work on my machining a little bit. All right. Ideally, you'll push the other way, but the way I got it set up in there right now, we're going to push towards it. It's just the front side. It'll be fine. On the rear sights that are a little bit stronger and stiffer, worry about which direction you're pushing, but for the front, it's not as big of a deal. Padded floors are great. Alrighty. Now that's on, and here are the sights, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting these on my shield, the Smith & Wesson shield. Now that I got this off, I'm going to clean this slide in the ultrasonic cleaner for a little bit. I'll watch from this side now. Get my vise tightened. Okay. Now I've got one shim underneath there, and that's going to bring the flat part of our block, the flat side, up against the flat side of our sight. So with it in there, you got to move this over far enough to get your dovetail fit down in there. Just kind of get it started a little bit. And I recommend you do this first part by hand, because these are pretty delicate. You want to be able to see and feel what's going on. It may require you to put a little pressure on it and then back it off. Put a little pressure on and back it off. You just watch what's going on. Relieve a little pressure there. Now, what I'm noticing is I'm getting a little angulation because of the way that the front of this M&P slide is designed. And let me show you. See how it's got that that angle there? That angle is allowing us to move just a hair. So what I'm going to do is just have to hold it Let's see. I'm just going to have to hold it. I'm going to put opposite pressure. I got a good bit of leverage here on the end of this slide, so should be fine. It's moving barely. Alright, now we've got it about in the middle. And what you got to do now is you got to pull it out of there and check it. There we go. Look at how bright that is. that sight's so long it can get angled sometimes. Now we'll check it with the caliper here, wherever my calipers are. What I do since there's really no good place to measure from, I will put my calipers here on this flat spot, and then you can use right there that ridge, or you can use right here where the dovetail stops. And then without turning around like this, you need to just move over this way. That way everything is symmetrical, and you measure to the other one. So that's how you check that. There's other ways, but that's the easiest way to go about it for now. When you remove your rear sight, right there, that will expose the back side of your safety plunger. These are the parts. Yours may look a little different. These are aftermarket. You got your spring that goes in your safety plunger there. Safety plunger will go down in there, and then your plate will go on. I'll show you a little trick that you can use if you've got one. Plunger goes in, spring in there. You got this little plate, and it goes right over that. Now, this is Talon Tactical. It comes with a number of rear sights. Also, the Apex, you can get it from them. I can get you one, and it's just it's basically shaped like your rear sights. And what we're able to do is you want to put this in from the right hand side if you were holding the gun. Push that down. Well, push that down, and you're going to slide that over it. Slide that over. Now when you put your rear sight on, you'll just be pushing that out. Now, I've not messed with this with the sight pusher tool, so we're going to have to see how that all pans out. Alright, I cut the end of that tool off, and I've just slid this on there. Now we'll see what we've got here. There we go. Now that that's over there, we can pull that out of the way because our sight is over that disc. Okay. Same thing, just need to measure. There you see yellow and green. You'll be looking at these gaps here and right there. Adjust it a little bit more. Now we'll have to shoot a couple rounds and see if I'm on or not. All finished up. There we go. There's the fiber optic, the way it looks. And